dear students, how are you? Today we are going to start with our new play for this term entitled Midsummer Night's Dream for by William Shakespeare. Okay, we are going to start reading two pages, pages 13 and 14. Prepare your book and your pen, and let's start. Okay, let's revise the character that I told you about. Here we have Theseus, the Duke of Athens, Aegis, a citizen in Athens, Demetrius, young Athenian, Lysander, country man. Okay, so Lysander and Demetrius were young Athenians. Hermia, daughter of Aegis, Helena, her friend, Apiran, king of fairies, Titania, the queen of fairies, Puck, advisor to Apiran, and he was also a fairy, okay? And fairy servant Titania, okay? Let's start with reading the first scene of this play. Okay, let's start reading together. I gave you full account about this play before, okay? So let's start reading. There was a law in the city of Athens. As I told you before, where is Athens? Yes, exactly. Athens is in Greece. Okay? So, there was a law in the city of Athens which gave its citizen. What's the meaning of citizen? Citizen means a member or someone who lives in a certain country. Muatin. Okay? So, there was a law in the city of Athens which gave its citizens the power to force their daughters to marry whoever they pleased. What does it mean? This means that the rule or the law in Athens gave the citizens, gave the members who lived in that city, okay, the power to force their daughters to marry whoever they please. So if a father wanted his daughter to get married from someone, she had to do this, okay? طب if she refused, if a daughter refused to marry the man her father had chosen to be her husband, the father could by this law cause her to be killed. So the father had the right to go to the Duke of Athens and ask him to apply this law and to have his daughter killed. Okay, so the girl would be killed if she refused to marry the man that her father had chosen for her. Okay, so here we have a question. What was the cruel law of Athens? Underline. There was a law in the city of Athens which gave its citizens the power to force their daughters to marry whoever they pleased. If a daughter if a daughter refused to marry the man her father had chosen to be her husband, what would happen? The father could by this law cause her to be killed. Okay, so this is the answer of question number 1. Okay, now let's go on. But as fathers do not often desire the death of their own daughters, even if they are little disobedient. Little disobedient means even if the girls refuse to marry the man that her father had chosen to her, they didn't use that law. Why? Because father did not often desire the death of their own daughters. Okay? So this law was rarely or never used. Here we have another question. Okay? Why was not the cruel law often used? Underline. As fathers do not often desire the death of their own daughters. Okay? Even if they are little disobedient. So this is the answer of question number 2. Okay? So the father didn't want their daughters to be killed. Okay? That's why that cruel law wasn't used or rarely used. Okay? Now let's go on. But there was one case of an old man whose name was Aegis, who actually did come to Theseus. As I told you before, who was Theseus? Theseus was the duke at the time, the Duke of Athens. Okay? So there was a man called Aegis, or a citizen called Aegis. Aegis went to Theseus, who was the Duke of Athens. Why? To make a complaint about his daughter Hermia. Why to complain about his daughter Hermia؟ عشان يشتكي بنته. Okay? He had commanded Hermia to marry Demetrius, a young man of an old Athenian family, but she refused to obey him. Why? Why did Hermia refuse to obey her father? Because she loved another young Athenian named Lysander. Because she loved another man called Lysander. Okay? يبقى Aegis, who was a citizen in Athens, went to Theseus, who was the Duke of Athens, to complain about his daughter Hermia. Why? Because she disobeyed him. She didn't want to marry the man that he had chosen for her. Okay? Why? Because she loved another man called Lysander. So here we have another question. Why did Aegis want the cruel law to be used against his daughter? Underline. Here you are going to write, underline the answer with me. Because he had commanded, this is the answer, okay? Why did Aegis want the cruel law to be used against his daughter? Because he had commanded Hermia to marry Demetrius, a young Athenian man. Okay? A young Athenian man of an old Athenian family, but she refused to obey him. Why? Because she loved another young Athenian named Lysander. So Aegis demanded justice from Theseus and asked for this cruel law to be used against his daughter. So that's why Aegis wanted this law to be used against his daughter, because he had commanded his daughter to marry Demetrius, who was a young Athenian man, but she refused. Why? Because she loved another Athenian man called Lysander. Okay? So he went to Theseus and asked him to use the law against his daughter عشان يستخدم القانون ضد بنته and to have her killed. Okay? So let's go on. Here we have another question. Who did Aegis want his daughter to marry? Why did not she want to marry him? Yes, exactly. I can hear someone saying he wanted her to marry a young Athenian man called Demetrius. The same answer. He had commanded Hermia to marry Demetrius, a young man of an old Athenian family, but she refused. Why? Why did she refuse to obey him? Because she loved another young Athenian named Lysander. Okay, because she loved another man called Lysander. Okay. Now let's move to the second part. Hermia defended herself in front of the Duke. Okay. Hermia's defense was that Demetrius had formally said that he loved her dear friend Helena. So her defense about herself, that Demetrius, the young man that her father wanted her to get married from, was in love with another girl. Who was that girl? She was her friend, and she was called Helena. So Demetrius told Helena that he loved her. okay? And that Helena loved Demetrius deeply, okay? And that was a good reason, okay? So here we have a question. How did Hermia defend herself in front of the Duke? Huh? Who can tell me? How did Hermia defend herself in front of the Duke? Yes, exactly. Underline the answer with me. Hermia's defense was that Demetrius had formerly said that he loved her dear friend Helena, and that Helena loved Demetrius deeply. Okay, so this is the defense of Hermia. Oh, this is Hermia's defense that Demetrius loved or said that he loved another girl called Helena, and Helena loved him so much. Besides that, Helena was her dear friend. Okay? Okay, now let's go on. But this good reason which Hermia gave for not obeying her father's command did not move the severe Aegis at all. Severe means, here underline the word severe. Severe means tough. Tough Aegis, okay? This means that that good reason didn't make Aegis to change his mind, okay? ما غيرش رأيه خالص. Theseus, though a great and good prince, had no power to change the laws of his country. Although he was the Duke of Athens, but he couldn't change the law. The law couldn't be changed, okay? So he could only give Hermia 4 days of to consider the matter. What's the meaning of to consider? To consider means to think carefully. Okay? To think carefully. Okay? About that matter. At the end of that time, if she still refused to marry Demetrius, she would be put to death. This means that he gave her 4 days to think carefully about that matter, okay? And after the 4 days, if she decided to refuse Demetrius or to disobey her father, she would be killed, okay? When Hermia left the presence of the Duke, she went to her lover Lysander. Who was Lysander? The man that she loved, okay? She told him the danger she was in. She told him about the whole matter. She told him everything. She told him that she was in danger, okay? And that she must either give him up. Give him up means to break up with him, okay? And marry Demetrius or lose her life in 4 days' time. Okay? So she told Lysander about the whole matter. She told him that she was in danger, and if she still refused to marry Demetrius, she would be killed. Okay? So she had no choice whether to leave or to break up with Lysander and marry Demetrius, or she would be killed. Okay? What did Lysander do? Lysander was terribly upset when he heard this news. But remembering that he had an aunt who lived at some distance from Athens. So here we have a question. Okay? How did Lysander get the bad news? How did Lysander get the bad news? Underline the answer. This is the answer of question number 6. Lysander was terribly upset when he heard this news. Okay? So this is the answer of question number 6. How did Lysander get the bad news? He was very upset. Okay? When he heard this news. Okay, here we have another question. What was Lysander's plan to save Hermia from the cruel law? Let's see. But remembering that he had but remembering that he had an aunt who lived at some distance from Athens. يعني he remembered that he had an aunt who lived a long way from Athens, okay? And that at the place where she lived, the cruel law couldn't be used against Hermia, and the place that her aunt lived in, they couldn't use that law against Hermia. He suggested to his lover that she should secretly leave her father's house that night. This means that she would run away, okay? And go with him to his aunt's house, where he would marry her. So he suggested that Hermia would leave her father's house and they would meet secretly in the woods and go to their aunt. Okay? So here the answer of question number 7. What was Lysander's plan to save Hermia from the cruel law? Underline. But remembering, so here we are going to write he remembered, okay? Instead of but remembering, okay? He remembered that he had an aunt who lived at some distance from Athens, okay? And that the place where she lived, the cruel law couldn't be used against Hermia, okay? He suggested to his lover that she should secretly leave her father's house that night and go with him. Where? To his aunt's house, where he would marry her. So this is the answer of question number 7. Underline this answer and write number 7. Okay? Okay. Now, let's move to the second part. Here, Lysander talked to Hermia, saying, I will meet you in the wood a few miles outside the city, in that happy wood where we have so often walked with Helena. Okay, so here we have a comment. I will meet you in the wood a few miles outside the city, in that happy wood where we have so often walked with Helena. Okay, so in order to answer this comment, we are going to write the introduction. This extract is taken from a play entitled A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare. Yes, these words were said by Lysander exactly to, yes, bravo, to Hermia. Yes, when she told him about everything and told him that she was in danger and she had only 4 days whether to leave him or to break up with him and marry Demetrius, or she would be killed. Okay, so Lysander suggested that they would meet in the wood and go to his aunt, okay, because she lived at some distance from Athens, okay, and that place that his aunt lived in, the cruel law couldn't be used against Hermia, okay, and he would marry Hermia there. This is the answer of this comment. Underline the comment. I will meet you in the wood a few miles outside the city, in that happy wood where we have so often walked with Helena. Okay, now let's go on. Hermia joyfully agreed to this suggestion, and she told no one of her intended flight. She didn't tell anyone about that secret, okay, except her friend Helena, because she was her dear friend. As young women do foolish things for love, Helena decided to go and tell this to Demetrius. Okay? That's so bad. So at that time, Helena, when Hermia told Helena about her secret plan, Helena went to Demetrius to tell him about that secret. Why do you think? Here we have a question. Why do you think Helena told Demetrius about Hermia's plan? Why? Okay, underline the answer with me. Underline. This is the question number 9. Helena decided to go and tell this to Demetrius. She could hope to gain nothing by giving away her friend's secret, accepted the small pleasure of following the man she loved to the wood, because she knew that Demetrius would in fact go there after Hermia. So Helena told Demetrius about Hermia's secret. Why? Because she knew if Demetrius knew that Hermia would run away, he would go after her. Okay? And who would go with him? Of course, Helena. Okay? And that way she would be happy to be with her lover. Okay? To be with the one that she loved. So she was going to go with him after Hermia and Lysander. Okay? Because she loved him, as I told you. Okay? Let's go on. The wood in which Lysander and Hermia planned to meet was the favorite meeting place of those little beings known as fairies. So the place where Lysander and Hermia would meet in the wood, that place was the home for the fairies. Can you remember the fairies that I told you about? Fairies means Guineat. Okay? That place was the home of fairies. Next time, inshallah, we are going to know what would fairies do with Lysander, Hermia, Demetrius, and Helena. Okay, now let's move to your home assignment. Your home assignment, you are going to write these questions in your copybook, and you're going to write the answers, and I'm gonna see them inshallah next time. Okay, let's start with the first question. What was the cruel law of Athens? Who can tell me what was the cruel law of Athens? Yes, exactly. There was a cruel law in Athens that gave the citizens the power to force their daughters to marry whoever they pleased. Okay? And if the daughter refused to marry the man that her father had chosen to her, she would be killed. Okay? Number 2. Why was not the cruel law often used? Because, of course, father didn't want their daughter to be killed. Okay? Number 3. Why did Aegis want the cruel law to be used against his daughter? Because he wanted her to marry an Athenian man called Demetrius, and she refused to marry him. Why? Because she loved another man called Lysander. The answer of the question number 4. Who did Aegis want his daughter to marry? Why didn't she want to marry him? He wanted her to marry an Athenian man called Demetrius, yes, and she refused. Why? Because she loved another man called Lysander. Exactly. How did Hermia defend herself in front of the Duke? Hermia's defense was that Demetrius, yes, exactly. Demetrius told her dear friend Helena that he loved her. And Helena loved him deeply. Okay? So, Hermia couldn't get married from that man because he loved another girl, and that girl was her best friend. Okay? How did Lysander get the bad news? Of course, he was terribly upset when he heard that news. Okay, number 7. What was Lysander's plan to save Hermia from the cruel law? He remembered that he had an aunt who lived at some distance from Athens. Okay, and he told Hermia that she would run away from her father's house, and they would meet secretly in the wood. Okay, and they would go to his aunt. Okay, she lived in a place where the cruel law couldn't be used. Okay, number 8. I'll meet you in the wood a few miles. We answered this comment. We said that these words were said by Lysander, yes, exactly, to Hermia when he told her about his plan to save her from death. Okay, number 9. Why did Helena tell Demetrius about Hermia's plan? Huh? Yes, of course, because she she knew that Demetrius would follow Hermia. And of course, she would go with Demetrius. So she would be happy to be with the man that she loved. Okay? Next time, inshallah, I'm going to see these questions with the answers in your copybook. See you inshallah next time with my best wishes, Mrs. Wala Lashin. Bye bye.